Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Mix presented by CrossBones MMA Radio. I'm your host John Galloway, and today, as we look at the world of combat sports, I'll be joined by my guest, Nick Honstein. Nick, John Galloway, CrossBones MMA, how's it going today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks for asking. So Nick, I'm on the phone with you talking today because on December 19th, you're going to be stepping into the cage for Titan FC once again at Titan FC 32 at the Sangha Center in Lowell, Massachusetts. How did this fight come about for you?
Well, I actually, a couple months ago, took a fight on short notice against Pedro Nobre. It was about 2 days before the fight. And I took the fight knowing really what I was getting into. I knew I was fighting a real tough opponent on short call, and I miraculously made the weight in about 20 hours. And I had a good fight. It didn't come out my way. I lost by a split decision, but it was a good enough performance, I guess, to give me a contract with Titan, which I'm excited about. It's going to keep me busy and keep me moving forward with my career.
Nice. Now, you've had a couple other fights here. You fought for Cage Fury Fighting, a more regional show up here in the Northeast. What's the experience been like between a more regional show like Cage Fury and some of the other ones that you fought on, and a bigger national show and even international show with Titan?
It definitely gets a lot more professional and a lot, as far as the whole process of the fight, I like it. I definitely like working with the bigger shows. The competition's higher, but it seems like I've had fights all along the way. Some of my toughest fights have been in bars in Denver. So, I've been all over the world fighting, and nothing really intimidates me more. I guess I just get more excited on these bigger shows. I'm excited about the opportunity to fight on TV, things like that. So, I love it. I've really never been too concerned about my opponent, what level he is or anything like that. I mean, they're always tough. It's always a fight. And I'm always ready to win. So
now, what is your background in fighting? Where did you get your start from?
I was bartending in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and a couple guys were putting on a show, and I kind of just jumped into it as a wrestler. I guess I grew up wrestling, and then it just took off from there. I lost a jiu-jitsu match, in a ring. It was an MMA fight, and I did a jiu-jitsu match. And I got choked out by this 15-year-old blue belt, and then I figured out what jiu-jitsu was, and just took off from there. Next thing you know, I started competing locally at, really small shows around Wyoming and Nebraska. And I started putting together some wins as an amateur. I went 9-1, and then I decided to turn professional. And really, I've always just been fascinated with jiu-jitsu and different unorthodox grappling techniques, catch wrestling. So that's the style I've picked up over the years. I like to grapple and submit people. So I've played around with a lot of different styles of jiu-jitsu, 10th Planet, and Roots Jiu-Jitsu and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I've kind of, Marcelo Garcia. I've mixed it all together. But I've also been working my Muay Thai a lot the past few years. Been working with my new coach. Well, not new, I guess. We've been working together for almost 3 years now. Mark Montoya at Factory X. And I've been to Thailand. I've done a little bit of training over there. So really just mixed it up the last, I guess it's been 8 years now.
And now,
just a bit of everything.
Now, what I was starting to say was, you're gonna be fighting back-to-back Brazilians. How does their style match up to each other, where it gives you a better idea of what you're gonna be facing stepping into the cage again in December?
Well, to be honest, I usually expect high-level jiu-jitsu from Brazilians, obviously.
Right.
But my last opponent and my next opponent, their styles are quite different, even though they're both Brazilians. Ilyarde Santos, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I am. But he's more of a wrestler, it looks like, kind of a brawler. He's not a real clean jiu-jitsu guy like most of the Brazilians that I fought.
Sure.
So.
And now you mentioned that you kind of really don't game plan so much. You focus on what you're doing in the fight. Is that something that you do a lot of? Do you not focus? Do you not that you don't focus, but do you not focus on your opponent? Do you worry more about what you can control and the game plan that you're trying to implement? How exactly does your
Yeah,
camp
it's
work?
definitely. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying how does your camp work? How do you structure your camp and your game planning?
I follow the team routine we have at Factory X, and some certain things are tailored for me when I'm in camp and other people when they're in camp. But for the most part, I just I spar once a week. I do jiu-jitsu a few times a week, wrestling once a week, and Muay Thai a few times a week, and then I mix in my strength conditioning. So I'm just always working on my game plan. Like you said, I don't have a lot of. I'll take one or two things for each fight that my coach thinks is going to work well, like one combination or one intro to a takedown that he thinks is going to work well, and I'll kind of work that more than the rest. But
Right.
yeah, I don't break down tapes and I don't review opponents. That's something I've done ever since I was in high school wrestling that my coach taught me. You kind of psych yourself out if you watch your opponent too much.
Interesting. Now, when I wanted to get back to something you were saying earlier about fighting all over the world and fighting in different levels of shows. But are you a fighter who it wants that type of atmosphere, that wants the big lights, the big show, or are you able to just block it out and almost like put blinders on to the surroundings and just focus what's going on in the cage?
I guess both. Definitely enjoy the big shows, bigger platforms to represent my sponsors. I like the opportunity to fight in front of all my friends and family and stuff, and that pumps me up. But once the fight starts, I do try to block it all out. Then it's just the same cage I fight in every Friday night at Factory X.
Right.
It's my coach, his voice, and my opponent, and that's it. Everything else needs to be kind of zoned out.
And now you said that it pumps you up. Is that all the time? I've spoken to fighters that have said that when they fight in bigger shows, sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking. Other times they talk about how it kicks the adrenaline in and they're really pumped for it. You kind of hinted at it by saying that you get excited for the bigger shows. Is that a constant? Is that hit or miss? Well, how's that?
It's a hard feeling to put your finger on. It really is, because it's a weird blend of nerves and excitement and fear. It's intimidating as hell walking out in front of that many people, and you're half naked and you're exposed, and you're up for scrutiny and criticism against anything you do wrong. And that, if you think about that too much, it definitely is. It can cripple you. But I just remind myself every time that it makes me feel alive. I mean, you have so many emotions running through you. Really, the only logical thing to do is enjoy it, and I try to do that every time. But it is hard. It's easier to say than do. It definitely is a lot of emotions to mess around with.
Now you're fighting out of Denver. When exactly will you make the trip over to Massachusetts?
They want us there, I think, on Tuesday next week. Not next week, the week after.
Okay.
Tuesday, the week of the fight.
And then we often hear about elevation training and guys not being able to handle the atmosphere when they go up to Denver. What's it like for you coming down from Denver? Is your cardio that much more increased? Do you feel those effects?
It definitely is. It definitely is. When I go down to sea level and I'm in fight shape, I go to do my weight cut and I can't run myself out of breath. My legs get tired. My body starts getting real sore before I ever even get a win. So, yeah, I definitely feel a difference. That's not a myth. That's a real thing, training a mile high up here, and then going down to sea level.
Now, you had mentioned that.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, you had mentioned that you got excited about fighting in the big shows because gave you a better platform for your sponsors and the people that help support you. Who are some of your sponsors?
Well, I get pre-made meals, some delicious food from Noble Savage, and they're a paleo health food company. and it's delicious stuff. They have all sorts of different meals. And, yeah, they hook me up with the meals and make it much easier for me to make the weight cut. They provide the gyms all around Denver. You can find them on Facebook and online as well. And then I get supplements from my friends in Sydney. They started a supplement company. It's called Bear Twins, and they use all organic, all the best ingredients you can find. It's basically they have proteins, some of the best proteins you can get, isolate and concentrate. And they get it from, like I said, all organic cows. They use all organic, like vanilla beans, and there's nothing funky in there. And a bunch of freeze-dried superfoods they send me, so that helps as well. I get a bunch of, like, spirulina and all sorts of other really, really good green stuff that I wouldn't normally eat. I get that freeze-dried, so I can just get it in a drink. And they send that from Sydney, so costs a lot to ship it over here, so I sure appreciate that. And then Performance MMA hooks me up with gear. That's Chris Camosi's company that he runs right next to Factory X. And they have an online website as well, but you can also just come down to our gym anytime, and like I said, right next door is his clothing store, and they've got really good gear, which you really just can't find anywhere. You know, finding MMA gear is hard, but there's actually a store, and that's it. And then myself, I do construction, so I got to thank my biggest sponsor, Nick Honstein Construction. Really, it covers it all. So if you need any work done, hit me up on Facebook. And yeah, my Twitter feed is Nick Honstein, and I've got a Quick Nick Facebook page at Quick Nick Honstein, and then you can also find Nick Honstein Construction on there on Facebook.
All right, very cool. Well, once again, the fight is going to be December 19th. It's at the Songa Center in Lowell, Massachusetts. People can watch it online at CBS Sports Net. They can also catch the live shows or the live fights that are going to be airing on CBS Sports on their cable provider or their satellite provider. Now, if they can't, the Twitter page and the Facebook page, do you update them with what you have going on in your career, where your next fight is, who your next opponent is, all that type of information?
I do. I get a little lazy when I'm out of camp, but I definitely, when I have fights coming up, I try to put something on there every day, what's going on, and
excellent. Just
updates of my training and where the fight's at.
All right, just mention those once again. What's the Twitter feed again?
Twitter feed is at Nick Honstein.
And then your Facebook?
And then you can find me on Facebook. It's just Quick Nick Honstein.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's going to wrap up another episode of In the Mix, presented by CrossBones MMA Radio. I'm your host, John Galloway. I'd like to send a big thank you today to Nick Honstein for joining us. For Nick, this is John, and we are tapping out.